Daddy, please, Emma whispered, her small hand gripping the German shepherd's vest. Why won't they let Titan on the plane? Cole Harrison looked at the security chief standing 15 feet away. The man who'd beaten a military dog to death 10 years ago. The man Cole had reported and destroyed. The man who was now smiling. Because he knew. He knew Cole's mother had 6 hours to live. He knew this was the last flight before the airport closed for 3 days. And he knew exactly what he was about to do. The blizzard had hit Denver at 4:30 that morning. By 8 a.m., the temperature had dropped to 15 below zero, and the wind was tearing through the Rocky Mountains like something alive and angry. Snow came down in sheets so thick you couldn't see 20 feet in any direction. The kind of storm that shut down highways and grounded planes and sent people scrambling for shelter. Inside Denver International Airport Terminal B, the crowds pressed together shoulder to shoulder. Families huddled near charging stations. Business travelers paced in tight circles, checking their phones every 30 seconds. The departure boards flashed red cancellation notices one after another. Flight 447 to Atlanta remained the last green light on the entire screen. Last flight out, last chance before the airport closed for 72 hours. Cole Harrison stood at gate 12 with his daughter's small hand tucked inside his own, and his service dog Titan sitting perfectly still at his left side. He was 35 years old but looked older, the kind of aging that comes from thing other than time. A scar ran from his right temple down past his ear, where shrapnel had torn through his skull in Kandahar. His left hand trembled slightly when he wasn't paying attention. 3 tours as a Navy SEAL, 2 Purple Hearts, 1 traumatic brain injury that had ended his career and given him seizures he couldn't predict or control. That's where Titan came in. The German Shepherd was 6 years old, black coat, amber eyes, 90 pounds of trained muscle and instinct. He wore a red service dog vest with patches that read Medical Alert K9 and Do Not Pet Working Dog. Around his neck hung tags that meant more than most people understood. This wasn't a pet. This was medical equipment. This was the difference between Cole waking up in a hospital and Cole waking up at all. Emma Harrison was 8 years old with her father's dark hair and her grandmother's green eyes. She wore a purple winter coat 2 sizes too big because Cole had bought it on sale hoping she'd grow into it. Her backpack had a stuffed bear keychain hanging from the zipper. She hadn't let go of her father's hand since they'd entered the airport. Cole's phone had buzzed 20 minutes ago, a text message from Atlanta Memorial Hospital. The words had blurred for a second before his brain processed them properly. Your mother's condition has deteriorated. She needs type AB negative blood within 18 hours, or we cannot guarantee survival. Please confirm your arrival time. Cole's jaw had tightened. He typed back with his thumb. On last flight, landing 6 p.m. your time, tell her I'm coming. Now they stood in line at the check-in counter, watching a young woman with trembling hands try to process passengers while a man in a security uniform watched her like a hawk watches prey. Cole noticed these things. Navy SEALs are trained to notice everything. The line moved forward. A family of 4 checked in ahead of Cole, an elderly couple after them. Then it was Cole's turn. He stepped up to the counter with Emma beside him and Titan at his heel. He set his driver's license and boarding passes on the counter. 3 tickets. Cole Harrison, Emma Harrison, service animal approved. The young woman looked up from her computer screen. Her name tag read Ashley Monroe. Her eyes went immediately to Titan. Her face went pale. I'm sorry, sir, she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. We cannot accept animals on this flight. Cole stayed calm. He had dealt with this before. Misunderstandings happened. People didn't always understand the difference between a pet and a service dog. Ma'am, he said evenly, Titan is my registered service dog. He's trained to detect seizures related to my traumatic brain injury. I have all the documentation here. He pulled a folder from his jacket, medical records, service dog certification, training credentials, veteran disability papers, everything legal and proper and impossible to dispute. Ashley barely glanced at the papers. She looked past Cole toward the security office. Her hands were trembling harder now. I'm sorry, she said again. Company policy requires advance notice for service animals. You didn't call ahead. Cole kept his voice level. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, service dogs don't require advance notice or fees. They're medical equipment, same as a wheelchair or oxygen tank. Ashley's eyes flickered with something that looked like desperation. I understand, sir, but I have to follow company policy. Emma tugged on Cole's jacket. Daddy? She whispered. What's happening? It's okay, baby, Cole said without looking down. We're going to work this out. Behind the counter, a man in a dark security uniform stepped forward. 50 years old, thick shoulders, gray hair cut military short. His badge read, Head of Airport Security Victor Kane. He moved with the kind of precision that only comes from military training. Cole noticed it immediately. The way the man's weight shifted, the way his shoulders squared. This wasn't a rent-a-cop. This was someone who'd worn a uniform before. Victor's eyes locked on Cole's face. For 3 full seconds, neither man moved. Then Victor's expression changed. Recognition flickered across his features. His jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Cole felt ice water flood his veins. He knew this man. Mr. Harrison, Victor said. His voice was low and cold. It's been a long time. The terminal noise faded into background static. Cole's heart rate spiked. Titan's head snapped up. The dog sensed the change immediately. Threat, danger, protect. 10 years collapsed into nothing. Cole was 25 years old again. He was standing in a forward operating base in Afghanistan, watching a Navy lieutenant named Victor Kane beat a military working dog until it couldn't stand. The dog's name had been Ranger, a Belgian Malinois, 3 years old, trained to detect IAEDs. Victor had been drunk. He'd lost 2 men that day, and he'd blamed the dog for missing a bomb. He'd taken a metal rod, and he'd beaten that animal until its ribs cracked and its breathing went shallow and ragged. Cole had reported it, filed a formal complaint, testified at the hearing. Victor Kane was dishonorably discharged, stripped of rank, lost his pension, lost everything. And now he was standing 15 feet away, wearing a security badge, and looking at Cole like a man looks at the person who destroyed his life. Victor stepped around the counter. He moved slowly, deliberately. His hand rested on the radio clipped to his belt. You know, he said, his voice was almost conversational. I heard your mother wasn't doing well. Cancer, is it? Or was it organ failure? I can't quite remember. Cole's fists clenched. Titan's growl grew louder. Emma pressed closer to her father's leg. Victor smiled. No warmth in it, just edges. It would be a real shame if you missed that last flight. If you got held up here for some kind of security concern. 3 days is a long time when someone's dying. Cole's vision tunneled. His pulse hammered in his ears. The airport sounds became distant and muffled. This was how it started. The warning signs, the precursor to a full seizure. Stress, adrenaline, rage. All the triggers firing at once. Titan moved immediately. The dog positioned himself between Cole and Victor. Not aggressive, not attacking, just blocking, creating space. His body pressed against Cole's leg, grounding, anchoring. Cole forced himself to breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth. SEAL training, control the body, control the mind. Victor's smile widened. Still having those episodes, I see. Must be hard raising a kid when you can't trust your own brain not to shut down. Ashley made a small sound behind the counter, almost like a gasp. Mr. Kane, she said quietly, please, this isn't necessary. Victor's head snapped toward her. His expression went flat and dangerous. Did I ask for your opinion, Miss Monroe? Ashley's face went white. She looked down at her keyboard. I'm sorry, sir. Victor turned back to Cole. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take your daughter and your dog, and you're going to leave this terminal. You can try again tomorrow or the day after, whenever the airport reopens, but you're not getting on this flight. Cole's jaw worked. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to act, to put this man on the ground the way he'd been trained to do, but Emma was standing right there, and Titan was working. And there were 300 witnesses with phones, so he did what SEALs do when direct action isn't an option. He started gathering intelligence. His eyes scanned the terminal. 20 yards away, an old man sat in a wheelchair near gate 14. He wore a faded jacket with military patches. Gulf War veteran. The man was watching the confrontation with sharp eyes. He'd noticed something wrong. Near the coffee stand, a maintenance worker was mopping the floor, middle-aged, tired-looking, but his eyes kept flickering toward the check-in counter, toward Ashley, toward the way her hands shook. By the window, a young couple with a baby had stopped packing their diaper bag. They were listening, watching. Cole followed it all away. Terrain, assets, allies. He looked back at Victor. "I'm not leaving," he said quietly. "My mother is dying. This is the last flight for 3 days. I have legal documentation and federal law on my side. You cannot deny me boarding." Victor's smile disappeared. He reached for his radio. "Security to Terminal B, check-in counter. I need backup. We have a situation." The static crackle of the radio cut through the terminal noise. Heads turned. People started pulling out phones, Daddy Emma whispered. Her voice was shaking. "I'm scared." Cole knelt down. He put both hands on his daughter's shoulders. "Look at me, baby. Everything is going to be okay. Daddy's going to fix this. You stay right here with Titan. Don't move. Understand?" Emma nodded. Tears were building in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Cole stood up. He looked at Ashley. The young woman was staring at her computer screen like she wanted to disappear into it. "Ma'am," Cole said. His voice was calm but carried. "I know you're following orders, but what's being asked of you is illegal. Federal law protects my right to travel with my service dog. If you deny me boarding, you're opening yourself in this airline to a discrimination lawsuit." Ashley's fingers froze on the keyboard. She looked up at Cole, then at Victor, then back at Cole. For just a second, something flickered in her expression. Hope, maybe, or recognition that someone was finally saying what she'd been too afraid to say. "Miss Monroe," Victor said. His voice was steel. "Process this man as a no-show immediately." Ashley's hands hovered over the keys. She was shaking so hard now her whole body trembled. Then a voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me." The old man in the wheelchair was rolling himself toward the counter. He moved slowly but with purpose. His chair's wheels squeaked slightly on the polished floor. When he reached the group, he locked his brakes and looked up at Victor Kane. "I couldn't help but overhear," he said. His voice had the gravel of age and cigarettes, but the authority of someone used to being listened to. "You're denying this young man's service dog." Victor's jaw tightened. "Sir, this is a private matter between the airline and this passenger. Please return to your seat." The old man didn't move. "Name's Frank Sullivan. I flew helicopters in the Gulf War. Lost my legs to an IED in '91. I've been using service dogs for 23 years. And I'm telling you right now what you're doing is illegal as hell." Titan's tail moved slightly. Not a wag exactly, just acknowledgement. Dog to veteran. "You're okay. You're safe." "Mr. Sullivan," Victor said. His tone was ice. "I don't know what you think you heard, but I need you to step back before I have you removed from the terminal." Frank Sullivan didn't blink. "Son, I'm 72 years old, and I stopped being intimidated by men in uniforms before you were born. This boy has legal documentation. His dog is clearly marked as a medical alert animal. You're violating the ADA and you know it." More people were gathering now. The maintenance worker had stopped mopping. The young couple with the baby had moved closer. A businessman in an expensive suit was filming on his phone. Victor's face was turning red. He keyed his radio again. "Where is my backup? I need security at Terminal B immediately." The radio crackled. En route. 2 minutes. Cole's phone buzzed in his pocket. Another message from the hospital. He didn't need to look at it to know what it said. His mother was running out of time. Every minute he stood here arguing was a minute closer to forever too late. Titan pressed harder against his leg. The dog's breathing had changed. Faster, more alert. He was reading Cole's vitals. Heart rate up, blood pressure spiking, stress hormones flooding the system. The dog knew what came next. Emma was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. She'd wrapped both arms around Titan's neck and buried her face in the dog's fur. Ashley Monroe was staring at her computer screen with tears in her own eyes. And Victor Kane was standing there with his arms crossed and a look on his face that said he'd already won. Cole made a decision. He pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he needed. A lawyer he'd worked with before on veterans advocacy cases. He hit dial. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Cole didn't look at Victor when he spoke. He kept his eyes on Ashley. "Tom," he said into the phone, "it's Cole Harrison. I'm at Denver International Airport. I'm being illegally denied boarding due to my service dog. Head of security is named Victor Kane. I need you to contact the airport director and the airline's legal department immediately. I'm documenting everything. Multiple witnesses, cell phone footage. This is going to be a federal a violation lawsuit, and I'm filing tonight." He paused, listened, then nodded. "Yes, I'm serious. My mother is dying in Atlanta. This is the last flight. And this man is doing this because of a personal grudge from 10 years ago when I reported him for animal abuse in the Navy." Ashley's head snapped up. Her eyes went wide. Victor's face went from red to purple. The maintenance worker pulled out his own phone and started recording. Frank Sullivan rolled his wheelchair closer. "That's right, son. You tell them we got your back." Two airport security officers appeared from the corridor. Young guys, early 30s. They looked confused about why they'd been called. The older of the two stepped forward. "Sir," he said to Cole, "we need you to come with us." Cole turned to face him. "Officer, my name is Cole Harrison. I'm a disabled Navy veteran with proper documentation to travel with my medical alert service dog. I'm being illegally denied boarding by the head of security due to a personal vendetta. I have witnesses. I have legal representation on the phone. And if you remove me from this terminal, you'll be complicit in a federal civil rights violation." The officer blinked. He looked at Victor, then at the growing crowd, then at the phones recording everything. He keyed his radio. "I need a supervisor to Terminal B. We have a situation that requires management-level authority." Victor stepped forward. "I am the authority here. Remove this man." The officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, I think we should wait for the terminal manager." Victor's hand went to his belt, reached for something. The crowd tensed. Cole's body moved on instinct. SEAL training. 3 years of combat. He shifted his weight, put Emma behind him in one smooth motion. Titan moved into guard position between Cole and Victor. The dog's body coiled. "Ready." The crowd gasped. Because what Victor saw in Cole's eyes wasn't fear. It was the cold calculation of a man who'd survived Kandahar, who knew exactly how to put someone on the ground in under 4 seconds, who could disarm a threat before it even knew what was happening, who'd been trained by the best operators in the world to read body language and neutralize danger with surgical precision. Victor's hand froze on his belt. He saw it then, the slight angle of Cole's stance, the way his weight had shifted to the balls of his feet, the way Titan had positioned himself for maximum defensive coverage, the way the entire geometry of the space had changed in half a second. This wasn't a disabled veteran begging for mercy. This was a weapon waiting for a target. Victor's hand moved away from his belt, slowly, carefully, the way prey backs away from a predator. A new voice cut through the tension. "What exactly is going on here?" A woman in her early 40s was walking toward the counter. She wore a dark blazer with an airline supervisor pin. Her name tag read Catherine Hayes, Terminal Manager. She looked tired and stressed, but her eyes were sharp and taking in every detail of the scene. Miss Hayes, Victor said. His tone shifted immediately. Professional, controlled. We have a passenger attempting to board with an unauthorized animal. When I informed him of airline policy, he became hostile and threatened legal action. Catherine Hayes looked at Cole, then at Titan, then at Emma standing there with tears on her face, then at Frank Sullivan in his wheelchair, then at the phone's recording, then at Ashley Monroe, who looked like she might throw up. She held out her hand to Cole. May I see your documentation, please? Cole handed over the folder. Medical records, service dog certification, veteran disability papers. Catherine Hayes read every page. She took her time. The terminal had gone quiet. Even the announcement system seemed to have paused. 300 people watching one woman read papers that would determine whether a man got to say goodbye to his mother. She closed the folder. She looked at Victor Kane. This documentation is completely valid, she said. Her voice was calm but carried authority. This is a legitimate service animal. This passenger has every legal right to board this flight. Victor's face twisted. Ms. Hayes, I have reason to believe this man poses a security risk based on what Catherine Hayes said, based on a history of violent behavior towards superior officers. Catherine Hayes raised an eyebrow. Do you have documentation of this alleged history? Victor hesitated. It's classified military information. Then it's not relevant to civilian air travel, Catherine Hayes said. She turned to Ashley. Please process Mr. Harrison and his family for boarding immediately. Ashley's hands moved toward the keyboard, then stopped. She looked at Victor. Her face was white as paper. Victor leaned close to Ashley. So close, Cole could see the young woman flinch. Miss Monroe, he said quietly, if you process this man's boarding, I will make sure every single person in this terminal knows about your situation. Do you understand me? Ashley's breath caught. Her eyes filled with tears. Cole saw it then. The fear, the control, the threat. He stepped forward. What situation? Victor's head whipped toward him. That's none of your business. Cole kept his voice even. If you're threatening this young woman, that makes it everyone's business. I'm not threatening anyone, Victor said. I'm simply reminding Miss Monroe of the consequences of her actions. Frank Sullivan rolled his wheelchair between Victor and the counter. Son, I've been around long enough to recognize a bully when I see one. Whatever you've got on this girl, it ain't worth your soul. The maintenance worker spoke up from the edge of the crowd. He's been doing this for months. Different employees, always the young ones, always the ones who can't fight back. Catherine Hayes turned to the maintenance worker. Can you elaborate on that? The man shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a janitor, ma'am, but I see things. I hear things. Mr. Kane has a way of finding out personal information about employees and using it to make them do what he wants. Victor's face was pure rage now. You're fired, effective immediately. You don't have the authority to fire anyone, Catherine Hayes said coldly. She looked at the security officers. Please escort Mr. Kane to the security office. He's suspended pending investigation. Victor didn't move. You can't do this. I absolutely can, Catherine Hayes said. And if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have these officers remove you by force. For a long moment, Victor Kane stood there. His fists were clenched. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. He looked at Cole with pure hatred. This isn't over, he said quietly. You destroyed my life once. I'll make damn sure you pay for it. Then he turned and walked toward the security office. The two officers followed him. The terminal erupted in whispers and phone activity. Social media posts, text messages, videos uploading. Catherine Hayes turned to Ashley. Are you all right? Ashley shook her head. Tears were running down her face now. He has photos of my son. He said he'd report me to CPS. He said they'd take Michael away. Catherine Hayes put a hand on Ashley's shoulder. We're going to fix this, but right now I need you to process Mr. Harrison's boarding. Can you do that? Ashley nodded. Her hands were still shaking, but she turned to her keyboard. The clicks of the keys seemed impossibly loud. Cole knelt down next to Emma. He wiped the tears from her face with his thumb. "We're going to see Grandma, baby. I promise." Emma nodded. "Is that bad man gone?" "He's gone." Titan pushed his head under Cole's hand. The dog's breathing had steadied. Crisis passing, threat neutralized, handler safe. Frank Sullivan rolled his chair next to Cole. "You did good, son. Kept your cool. Didn't let him win." Cole looked at the old veteran. "Thank you, sir, for standing up." Frank waved a hand. "That's what we do. We look out for each other. Now you get on that plane and you get to your mama. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." Ashley printed out boarding passes. Her hands were steadier now. She slid them across the counter to Cole. "Gate A7, you have priority boarding. The crew has been notified about Titan." Cole took the passes. "Thank you." Ashley met his eyes. "I'm sorry for everything. I should have stood up sooner." "You stood up when it mattered," Cole said. "That's what counts." The maintenance worker approached. "Name's Robert Mitchell. I've been working here 12 years. I've seen Victor Kane intimidate at least 24 employees. You just did what the rest of us were too scared to do." Cole shook the man's hand. Maybe now things will change. The businessman who'd been filming walked over. "I'm posting this everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. By tonight, this whole airport will know what happened here." Catherine Hayes addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. Mr. Harrison and his family will be boarding first. The rest of you will board shortly after. Thank you for your patience and understanding." Cole picked up his bag. He took Emma's hand. Titan fell into position at his left side. As they walked towards the gate, people started clapping. Slow at first, then building. Then the entire terminal was applauding. Some people stood, the young couple with the baby, a group of college kids, an elderly woman with a cane. Frank Sullivan gave a salute. Cole returned it. They reached gate A7. A flight attendant was waiting. She smiled at Emma, then looked at Titan. "Welcome aboard. We have a special seat reserved for you near the front. Extra room for your partner there." Cole's phone buzzed. Another message from the hospital. He opened it this time. "Your mother is stable for now. Doctor says she's fighting. She's waiting for you. Hurry." Emma tugged his hand. "Daddy, we're going to make it right." Cole looked down at his daughter, at her green eyes full of hope and fear and trust. He looked at Titan, who'd kept him alive through 3 years of rehabilitation and countless close calls. He looked out the window at the snow still falling in sheets and the plane waiting on the tarmac. "Yes, baby," he said. "We're going to make it." The gate agent called for boarding. Cole Harrison, Emma Harrison, service animal. They walked down the jetway together. Father, daughter, dog. Behind them, the terminal was still buzzing with activity. Videos were uploading. News stations were being called. Catherine Hayes was on the phone with corporate. Ashley Monroe was giving a statement to airport police about Victor Kane's threats and the systematic intimidation he had been running for months. But Cole didn't know any of that yet. All he knew was that he was on a plane. The engines were warming up. The flight attendants were preparing for departure. Emma was buckled into the seat next to him. Titan was lying at his feet, and in 4 hours he'd be in Atlanta. In 4 hours, he'd walk into that hospital room and see his mother's face and hold her hand and tell her he'd made it. The plane began to taxi. Outside, the snow fell harder. The last flight was leaving Denver, and Cole Harrison was on it. The plane leveled off at 30,000 feet, somewhere over Kansas. Cole sat in row 3, seat A, with Emma curled against his shoulder, already asleep. The adrenaline crash had hit her hard. One moment she was asking the flight attendant for apple juice. The next she was out cold with her purple coat bunched up as a pillow and her small hand resting on Titan's head. The dog lay in the space between Cole's seat and the bulkhead. Eyes half closed but not sleeping. Never fully sleeping. Always monitoring. Always ready. Cole stared out the window at clouds stretching to the horizon. White on endless white. The storm was behind them now. Clear skies ahead. 4 hours to Atlanta, 4 hours to his mother's hospital room, 4 hours that felt like 4 years. His phone was in airplane mode, but he kept checking it anyway. Muscle memory, hoping somehow a message would get through, hoping the hospital would tell him his mother was stable, improving, that he had time, that this desperate race wasn't all for nothing. A flight attendant stopped beside his row. She was older, maybe 60, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She set a bottle of water on his tray table without asking. "You did a brave thing back there," she said quietly. Her voice had a Texas drawl. "My nephew came back from Iraq with PTSD. Has a service dog named Bear, German Shepherd like yours. People don't understand. They think it's just a pet." Cole looked up at her. "Thank you, ma'am, for understanding." She patted his shoulder. "You get some rest now. We'll have you in Atlanta before you know it." But Cole couldn't rest. His mind kept circling back to the terminal, to Victor Kane's face, to the hatred in those eyes, to the way Ashley Monroe had trembled when Victor leaned close and whispered his threat. "I will make sure every single person in this terminal knows about your situation." What situation? Cole pulled out his phone even though it was useless at 30,000 feet. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number for Tom Richardson, his lawyer, the man he'd called from the terminal. The call wouldn't go through, but he composed a text message anyway. Something to send the moment they landed. "Tom, need you to dig into Victor Kane's employment record at Denver Airport. Also need info on Ashley Monroe. Young woman, airline employee. Victor was using something against her, some kind of leverage. She was terrified. Need to know what he had on her." He saved the message as a draft. Titan shifted position. The dog's head came up, ears forward, eyes locked on Cole's face. Cole realized his heart rate had spiked. His hands were shaking slightly. The tremor that meant his brain chemistry was shifting, stress hormones building. The precursor to the precursor. He closed his eyes, controlled his breathing, SEAL technique, box breathing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Titan's nose touched his hand, cold and wet, grounding. The dog's way of saying, "I'm here. You're okay. Come back." The shaking steadied, his heart rate dropped. Crisis averted. Emma stirred in her sleep. She mumbled something that might have been Grandma. Her hand tightened on Titan's fur. Cole looked at his daughter's face. She had his mother's nose, his mother's cheekbones. When Margaret Harrison smiled, it was like looking at Emma 30 years from now. Same warmth, same gentleness. If he didn't make it in time, Emma would lose that. She'd lose the grandmother who baked cookies every Sunday and read bedtime stories and voices for all the different characters and never once treated Cole's PTSD or seizures like something to be ashamed of. His phone buzzed. Impossible. They were at cruising altitude. No signal, but the screen lit up with a notification. Message received via in-flight Wi-Fi. Cole's stomach dropped. He opened the message. It was from a number he didn't recognize, a Denver area code. "Mr. Harrison, this is Ashley Monroe. I got your number from the airline manifest. I'm sorry to contact you this way, but I need to tell you something. Victor Kane didn't act alone. He has people inside the airline, inside airport security. When you landed him in trouble today, you put a target on your back. Please be careful. And please, I'm begging you, don't let what I did go to waste. Tell someone what he's been doing. Tell everyone. He destroyed my life. Don't let him destroy anyone else's." The message ended there. Cole read it 3 times. Victor didn't act alone. He has people. A target on your back. Cole's training kicked in. Threat assessment. If Victor had accomplices, they'd know Cole's flight information. They'd know he was landing in Atlanta at 6 p.m. They'd know he'd be vulnerable, distracted, focused on his mother. They could be waiting. He typed a response. "Ashley, What did Victor have on you? What was he threatening you with? The reply came back 90 seconds later. My son, Michael. He's 4 years old. I'm a single mother. 6 months ago, I made a mistake. I was desperate for money. I took a cash advance from the Employee Emergency Fund without proper authorization. It was wrong. I paid it back, but Victor found out. He said if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd report me. I'd lose my job. I'd get arrested for theft. CPS would take Michael. I couldn't risk it. I have no family, no support. If I lost my son, I'd have nothing. Cole stared at the screen. A single mother, a 4-year-old child, a desperate mistake, and Victor Kane had weaponized it. He typed back, how many others? The response took longer this time. I don't know exactly. I saw him do it to at least 6 people in the time I've been there. Always the same pattern. Find their weakness, exploit it, control them. He had a security guard fired last year because the guy refused to falsify an incident report. He got a gate agent transferred to the graveyard shift because she wouldn't lie about a passenger complaint. And the veterans. God, the veterans. He hated them. All of them. But especially the ones with service dogs. Cole's jaw tightened. How many veterans? Another pause. I don't know. More than 20, maybe 30. He made me turn them away. Fake reasons, missing paperwork, vaccination records, breed restrictions, things that weren't real policies. I kept a list, dates and names. I was too scared to do anything with it, but I kept it. Evidence, just in case. I have it on a flash drive at home. Cole's mind raced. This wasn't just personal vendetta. This was systematic, organized, criminal. He typed, I need that list. Can you email it to me? The response came immediately. I'm scared. If Victor finds out I gave you that information, he'll come after Michael. He has friends in social services. He told me once he could make it look legitimate. He could take my son and I'd never get him back. Cole understood fear. He'd felt it in Kandahar when the building collapsed and he was buried under rubble with a fractured skull and no way to call for help. He'd felt it in the hospital when the doctors told him he'd never serve again. He'd felt it when Emma was born 2 months premature and the nurses wouldn't tell him if she'd survive the night. But he also understood something else. Fear only wins if you let it. He typed carefully. Ashley, I'm a Navy SEAL, or I was before the injury. I've dealt with worse than Victor Kane. If you help me build a case against him, I will make sure you and your son are protected. I have a lawyer who specializes in veterans' rights and workplace retaliation. I have contacts in military advocate organizations. I will not let Victor hurt you or Michael, but I need that list. Those veterans deserve justice. You deserve justice. The typing indicator showed Ashley was writing. It went on for a long time. Finally, her message appeared. Okay, I'll send it. But please, please don't use my name unless you absolutely have to. I can't lose my son. He's all I have. Cole typed back, you have my word. 3 minutes later, an email arrived. The subject line read evidence. The attachment was a spreadsheet, names, dates, flight numbers, service dog breeds, reasons given for denial. Cole scrolled through it. 23 names, 23 veterans, 23 illegal denials, all on Victor Kane's watch, all with Ashley Monroe's employee ID attached to the transactions. Cole forwarded the email to Tom Richardson with a note. This is federal AD, a violation on a massive scale. Start building the case now. I want Victor Kane prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Then he forwarded it to 3 investigative journalists he knew from advocacy work. Then he forwarded it to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Then he posted it to a secure veterans advocacy forum with a detailed explanation of what had happened at Denver Airport. Within 15 minutes, his phone started buzzing with the responses, even at altitude. Tom Richardson. Holy hell, Cole. This is huge. I'm contacting the airline's corporate office and the airport authority immediately. A journalist from the Associated Press. Can I interview you when you land? This is a national story. a representative from Disabled American Veterans. We're filing a class action lawsuit. Can we use you as a plaintiff? Cole turned off the Wi-Fi. He needed to think, to process. His mother was dying. He had 4 hours to get to her. And now he just kicked a hornet's nest that was going to explode into national news. Titan's head rested on his knee. The dog's eyes were open now, watchful, the way they got when Cole's stress levels rose too high for too long. Emma stirred. She opened her eyes and looked up at her father. Are we almost there, Daddy? Not yet, baby. Another few hours. You should sleep more. I had a bad dream. Grandma was calling for us, but we couldn't get to her. Cole's chest tightened. It's just a dream. We're going to get there. I promise. Emma sat up. She looked out the window at the clouds. Then she looked at Titan, then back at Cole. That man at the airport, the mean one. He knew you, didn't he? Cole hesitated, then nodded. Yes, from a long time ago. Did you do something bad to him? No, baby. I stopped him from doing something bad, and he's been angry about it ever since. Emma processed this, her 8-year-old brain working through concepts of right and wrong and consequences. Sometimes doing the right thing makes people mad at you, doesn't it? Cole felt something crack open in his chest. Yeah, baby, sometimes it does. But you still have to do it. Yes, you still have to do it. Emma leaned her head back against his shoulder. I'm proud of you, Daddy. Cole closed his eyes, put his arm around his daughter, felt Titan's solid weight against his leg. The plane flew on through clear skies toward Atlanta. 2 hours later, Cole's phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from Catherine Hayes, the terminal manager. Mr. Harrison, I wanted to update you on the situation here. After you left, I conducted preliminary interviews with multiple employees. Your instincts were correct. Victor Kane has been running what can only be described as a protection racket within airport operations. He identifies employees with vulnerabilities, financial problems, immigration status, past mistakes, then leverages that information to compel compliance with various schemes. The service dog denials were just one aspect. We've also uncovered evidence of theft, falsified security reports, possibly even facilitation of smuggling operations. Federal authorities are now involved. This is much bigger than we initially thought. You may be contacted by FBI and DOJ investigators. I'm sorry you were caught up in this, but I'm grateful you stood your ground. You likely prevented this from continuing indefinitely. Cole read the message twice. Smuggling operations. Federal authorities. FBI. This wasn't just about Victor's personal vendetta against him. It wasn't just about a bitter ex-Navy officer abusing his authority. This was organized crime. Another message came through. This one from Officer David Thompson, the airport security guard who'd been called to remove Cole from the terminal. Mr. Harrison, Thompson here. I've been going through security footage and incident reports from the past 6 months. Victor Kane has been deleting or altering records almost daily. I have found evidence he's been allowing certain individuals to bypass security screening in exchange for cash payments. I also found communication logs suggesting he's been coordinating with people outside the airport. I've turned everything over to airport police and FBI. They're going to want to talk to you. You were the catalyst that broke this whole thing open. Thank you for your service, both in the Navy and today. Cole's hands were shaking again, not from neurological issues this time, from rage. While he'd been deployed in Afghanistan fighting actual terrorists, Victor Kane had been building his own little criminal empire in a civilian airport, stealing from employees, discriminating against veterans, taking bribes from God knows who to compromise security. And the service dog denials, the cruelty of it, veterans who'd already sacrificed so much, who relied on their animals for basic functioning, being turned away, humiliated, forced to miss flights, miss family events, miss funerals and weddings, and final goodbyes. How many others had been in Cole's position? racing against time to see a dying loved one, only to be stopped by Victor's petty, vindictive power trip. How many hadn't made it? The plane began its descent toward Atlanta. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our approach into Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Local time is 5:45 p.m. Temperature is 62 degrees. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to recognize a special passenger traveling with us today. Mr. Cole Harrison is a Navy veteran racing to see his mother in the hospital. We've been cleared for priority landing, and Mr. Harrison will deplane first. We ask that everyone remain seated to allow him and his family to exit quickly. Thank you for flying with us, and God bless our veterans. The cabin erupted in applause. Cole felt his face flush. He wasn't used to this. The attention, the recognition. SEALs operated in shadows. Quiet professionals. No glory, no spotlight. But Emma was beaming. She waved at the people, clapping. Titan's tail thumped once against the floor. The flight attendant who'd brought cold water earlier appeared at his row. We'll have you off this plane in under 2 minutes once we reach the gate. There's a cart waiting to take you directly to ground transportation. The crew has already contacted the hospital. Your mother knows you're almost there. The plane touched down. Smooth landing. The engines reversed. The aircraft slowed and turned toward the terminal. Cole's phone came alive with notifications as they reconnected to ground networks. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, 12 voicemail messages, news alerts, social media mentions, email after email. The story had exploded. Video from the Denver terminal was everywhere. Cole standing calm while Victor threatened him. Frank Sullivan rolling his wheelchair into the confrontation. Ashley Monroe crying at her computer. The crowd applauding as Cole walked to his gate. Hashtags were trending: justice for veterans, service dog rights, expose Victor Kane. Major news networks were requesting interviews. Politicians were issuing statements. Veterans organizations were mobilizing. In less than 6 hours, one confrontation at one airport had become a national conversation. But Cole barely registered any of it, because mixed in with all the noise was one message that made everything else disappear. It was from the hospital. Mr. Harrison, your mother's condition has deteriorated significantly. She's being moved to ICU. Doctor estimates she has approximately 6 hours remaining. Please hurry. 6 hours. The plane reached the gate. The seatbelt sign went off. Cole was already standing. Emma was gathering her backpack. Titan was in position. The flight attendant opened the door. A gate agent was waiting with a wheelchair and a motorized cart. Mr. Harrison, she said, we're going to get you to ground transportation immediately. Do you have a rental car reservation? No, I was going to get a cab. We've arranged a car service, no charge. They're waiting at the curb. They'll take you directly to Atlanta Memorial Hospital. Cole wanted to argue, to say he couldn't accept charity, but there was no time. Thank you, he said. They moved through the terminal at a run, Emma in the wheelchair because she couldn't keep up, Titan loping alongside, Cole's long strides eating up distance. People stared. Some recognized him from the videos already circulating. A few called out words of encouragement. An older man in a Marine's cap stood and saluted as they passed. They reached ground level in under 3 minutes. The car was waiting exactly where the gate agent said it would be. A black SUV with tinted windows. The driver was standing beside it. Big guy, shaved head, military bearing. The driver opened the back door. Mr. Harrison, name's Marcus Webb, Army Ranger, retired. When I heard what happened in Denver, I volunteered to drive you. No charge, no questions. Let's get you to your mother. Cole met the man's eyes. Thank you, brother. They loaded into the SUV. Emma, Cole, Titan stretched across the back seat. Marcus Webb pulled out into Atlanta traffic. He drove with precision, quick but not reckless. Taking shortcuts Cole wouldn't have known existed. The drive from the airport to downtown Atlanta normally took 40 minutes in rush hour traffic. Marcus made it in 22. He pulled up to the emergency entrance at Atlanta Memorial Hospital at 6:18 p.m. Go, Marcus said. I'll park and wait. Take as long as you need. Cole grabbed his bag, took Emma's hand. Titan moved to his left side automatically. They ran through the automatic doors into the hospital lobby. The smell hit him immediately. Antiseptic, sickness, death. The smell of every hospital he had been in since Kandahar. A nurse at the desk looked up. She saw Titan's vest, saw Cole's face, saw Emma's terrified expression. You're the Harrison family, she said. ICU third floor room 347. I'll let them know you're here. Cole didn't wait for the elevator. He hit the stairs, taking them two at a time. Emma struggled to keep up but didn't complain. Titan's claws clicked on the concrete steps. Third floor, through the ICU doors. A doctor was waiting, young guy, maybe 30, tired eyes. Mr. Harrison, I'm Dr. Patel. Your mother is stable at the moment, but very weak. We've prepared her for the blood transfusion. You're type AB negative, correct? Yes, good. We'll take you down to the lab immediately. The transfusion should take about 90 minutes. Can I see her first? Just for a minute. Dr. Patel hesitated, then nodded. 1 minute. She's been asking for you. Room 347 was at the end of the hall. The lights were dimmed. Machines beeped quietly. An IV stand stood beside the bed. Margaret Harrison lay small and fragile against white sheets. She was 72 years old but looked 90. Cancer and organ failure had eaten away at her until there was almost nothing left. Her hair was gone. Her skin was gray. Her breathing was shallow and labored. But when Cole stepped into the room, her eyes opened, and she smiled. Mom, Cole said. His voice broke on the word. You made it, Margaret whispered. Her voice was barely audible. I knew you would. Emma climbed onto this bed carefully. Grandma. Margaret's thin hand came up to touch Emma's face. My sweet girl, you take care of your daddy, okay? He needs you. I will, Grandma. Margaret's eyes found Titan. The dog had positioned himself where he could see both the door and the bed. Even here, even now, always working. That's a good dog, Margaret said. Best dog in the world, Cole said. Margaret's hand reached for his. Her grip was weak but determined. I'm proud of you, son. Always have been. Whatever comes next, whatever happens, remember that. Cole couldn't speak. His throat was locked tight with emotion he couldn't let out. Not here, not in front of Emma. Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. Mr. Harrison, we need to go. Cole kissed his mother's forehead. I'll be back in 90 minutes, and you're going to be fine. You hear me? You're going to be fine. Margaret closed her eyes. I hear you, baby. Cole left his daughter sitting with her grandmother, left Titan lying on the floor beside the bed, followed Dr. Patel down the hall to the lab, where they'd take his blood and filter it and put it into his mother's failing body and hope it was enough to buy a few more hours, a few more days, a few more moments. The lab technician prepped his arm, found the vein, inserted the needle. Cole watched his blood flow into the bag. Type AB negative, the rarest blood type, the universal donor for rare cases, the only thing standing between his mother and death. His phone buzzed, a message from Tom Richardson. Cole, Victor Kane has been arrested. FBI picked him up an hour ago. Multiple charges, wire fraud, theft, civil rights violations, conspiracy. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Ashley Monroe has been granted immunity in exchange for testimony. The other employees he was blackmailing are cooperating. You did it. You brought down an entire criminal operation. The veterans community owes you a debt. Cole stared at the message. Victor Kane arrested, 15 to 20 years. Criminal operation dismantled. He should have felt satisfaction, victory, justice. But all he felt was tired. The blood continued to flow from his arm into the bag. Each drop a piece of himself given freely to keep his mother alive. The way she'd given pieces of herself to keep him alive when he was deployed, when he was injured, when he came home broken and she'd helped put him back together. The technician finished, pressed gauze to the insertion point, taped it down. All done, Mr. Harrison. We'll get this to your mother immediately. You should rest. Drink plenty of fluids. You've had a long day. Cole almost laughed. A long day. He'd been awake for 14 hours, driven through a blizzard, confronted his worst enemy, stood up to corruption, exposed a criminal conspiracy, flown across the country, and donated blood to save his mother's life. Yeah, it had been a long day. He walked back to room 347. Emma was still sitting on the bed holding Margaret's hand. Titan hadn't moved from his post. Dr. Patel was checking monitors. The blood is on its way up, he said. We should see improvement within the hour. Cole sank into the chair beside the bed. Emma climbed into his lap. Titan rested his head on Cole's boot. Outside the hospital window, the sun was setting over Atlanta, orange and purple light painting the sky. Cole's phone buzzed one more time. A message from Ashley Monroe. Thank you for everything, for giving me the courage to do the right thing, for protecting me and Michael, for stopping Victor before he destroyed anyone else. You saved more than just yourself today. You saved all of us. Cole closed his eyes, felt Emma's weight in his arms, felt his mother's heartbeat through the machines monitoring her vital signs, felt Titan's steady presence at his feet. And for the first time since 4:30 that morning, when the blizzard started and the race began, he let himself believe they might actually make it through this. All of them, together. The blood transfusion started at 7:15 p.m. Cole sat in the chair beside his mother's bed and watched the dark red liquid flow through the IV line into her arm. His blood, type AB negative, rare enough that the hospital kept almost none in storage, common enough that he could give it freely. Emma had fallen asleep in his lap an hour ago. Her head rested against his chest. Her breathing was deep and even, the kind of sleep that only comes after exhaustion wins over fear. Titan lay on the floor with his chin on his paws. The dog's eyes were half closed, but his ears tracked every sound in the hallway. Every footstep, every voice, always monitoring, always ready. Margaret Harrison's vital signs had been declining steadily since 4 p.m. Heart rate dropping, blood pressure falling, oxygen saturation hovering at dangerous levels. But now, slowly, the numbers were climbing. Dr. Patel stood at the foot of the bed watching the monitors. He made notes on a tablet, checked the IV flow rate, listened to Margaret's breathing through his stethoscope. Finally, he looked at Cole. She's responding, he said quietly. Blood pressure is stabilizing. Oxygen levels are improving. This is good, very good. Cole felt something unclench in his chest. How long until we know for sure? Another few hours. But if she maintains this trajectory through the night, I'd say she's got a real fighting chance. Your timing was perfect, Mr. Harrison. Another hour and we might have lost her. Cole looked at his mother's face. The gray pallor was already fading, color returning to her cheeks. Her breathing was still labored but stronger, more determined. She'd been waiting for him, holding on with everything she had left. And now that he was here, now that his blood was flowing through her veins, she could finally rest. Dr. Patel left the room. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Emma slept on. Titan kept watch. Cole's phone buzzed on silent mode. He glanced at the screen. Another message from Tom Richardson. Cole, the media wants to talk to you. AN, Fox News, MSNBC, all the major networks. There are reporters camped outside the hospital. The story is everywhere. Veteran denied service dog rights. Exposes massive corruption. Takes down criminal security chief. You're being called a hero. The airline wants to offer you compensation. Significant compensation. We need to discuss strategy. Cole turned the phone face down on the bedside table. He didn't want to talk to reporters. Didn't want to be called a hero. Didn't want compensation or strategy meetings or 15 minutes of fame. He wanted his mother to live. He wanted Emma to grow up with her grandmother. He wanted to go home to Colorado Springs and return to the quiet, anonymous life of a disabled veteran trying to raise his daughter right. That was all. A nurse came in to check Margaret's vitals. She was older, maybe 50. She smiled at Emma sleeping in Cole's arms. "She's beautiful," the nurse said. "Looks just like her grandmother." "Thank you," Cole said. The nurse adjusted the IV drip. "Your mother told me earlier, before she got too weak to talk much, she said you were coming. Said nothing in this world would stop you. She was right. She always is," Cole said. The nurse patted his shoulder. "Get some rest, honey. We'll watch over her." But Cole couldn't rest. His mind kept turning over the events of the day. Victor Kane's face at the airport, the hatred in those eyes, the systematic cruelty of what he'd been doing. 23 veterans denied their rights. How many more before Cole had stopped him? Another message came through, this one from Catherine Hayes. "Mr. Harrison, I wanted to let you know that Ashley Monroe has been placed on paid administrative leave while we investigate her involvement in Victor Kane's activities. However, given the evidence of coercion and the fact that she came forward voluntarily, I expect she'll be fully cleared and offered her position back with additional support. She also mentioned that you promised to protect her and her son. I want you to know that the airline is taking that seriously. We've arranged for security at her home and legal assistance if needed. She's been through enough." Cole typed back with one hand while holding Emma with the other. "Thank you. She did the right thing under impossible circumstances. She deserves protection, not punishment." The response came quickly. "Agreed. You're a good man, Mr. Harrison. The kind of person who makes me believe the world isn't as broken as it sometimes seems." Cole set the phone down again. Outside the window, full darkness had fallen. Atlanta's skyline glittered with lights. Somewhere out there in the city, people were going about their normal Thursday evening, eating dinner, watching television, complaining about traffic, unaware that in this hospital room a mother was fighting for her life while her son gave her his blood and her granddaughter slept and a service dog kept watch. Margaret's eyes fluttered open. Cole leaned forward. "Mom, I'm here." Margaret's gaze found his face. Her lips moved. No sound came out at first, then a whisper. "So tired. I know, but you're doing great. The doctor says you're getting stronger." "Did we win?" Cole smiled despite everything. "Yeah, Mom, we won." Margaret's hand moved weakly on the blanket. Cole took it in his free hand. Her skin was thin as paper, bones like bird wings, but her grip was there, faint but present. "Always knew," Margaret whispered. "Always knew you'd do something important." "I didn't do anything important. I just stood up for myself." That's how it starts. One person, standing up, changes everything. Her eyes closed again, but her breathing was stronger now, more regular. The night passed slowly. Emma woke around 9 p.m. hungry and disoriented. A nurse brought her a sandwich and juice from the cafeteria. She ate sitting cross-legged on the floor next to Titan, sharing bites of turkey with the dog, even though service dogs aren't supposed to eat on duty. Titan accepted the offerings gracefully. Just this once. Around 11 p.m., Dr. Patel returned with another doctor, an older woman with silver hair and intelligent eyes. "Mr. Harrison," she said, "I'm Dr. Susan Mitchell, Chief of Oncology. I've been reviewing your mother's case. The transfusion has stabilized her enough that we can move forward with a more aggressive treatment protocol. There's a clinical trial, experimental immunotherapy. It's had promising results in cases like hers. I'd like to recommend her for enrollment if you and she agree." Cole looked at his mother. She was sleeping, but her face was peaceful. Not the gray mask of death anymore, just an old woman resting. "What are the odds?" he asked. Dr. Mitchell considered. "Honestly, without treatment, she has maybe 2 weeks. With the trial, maybe 6 months, maybe longer. We've had some patients go into full remission." 6 months versus 2 weeks wasn't even a choice. Do it, Cole said. Whatever she needs. Dr. Mitchell nodded. We'll start first thing tomorrow morning. She's a fighter, your mother. I can tell. She's not ready to go yet. No, Cole said. She's not. The doctors left. The night shift nurses moved quietly through the halls. Somewhere on another floor, a baby cried. Life continuing. Birth and death and everything between happening simultaneously in rooms separated by walls and floors, in the thin barrier between hope and despair. Cole's phone buzzed again. He almost ignored it, but something made him look. It was a video message from Frank Sullivan, the old Gulf War veteran who'd stood up for Cole at the Denver airport. The video showed Frank sitting in what looked like a small apartment. He was still in his wheelchair. Behind him was a wall covered in military photos and commendations. Son, Frank said to the camera, I don't know if you'll see this, but I wanted you to know something. What you did today mattered. I've been fighting for veterans' rights for 30 years. Advocating, testifying, writing letters to congressmen. And in one day you did more than I've done in 3 decades. You exposed systematic discrimination. You brought down a criminal operation. You gave 23 veterans their dignity back. But more than that, you showed people what courage looks like. Real courage. Not the kind you see in movies. The kind that happens when an ordinary man stands up to power because it's the right thing to do. My father fought in World War II. He always said the most important battles aren't fought with guns. They're fought with character. You got character, son. Your daughter's going to grow up knowing her father is a man of principle. Your mother's going to recover knowing she raised a son who stands for something. And those 23 veterans are going to tell their children and grandchildren about the day someone finally fought back. That's legacy. That's what matters. I'm proud to have stood beside you today. Semper Fi, brother. The video ended. Cole felt tears burning in his eyes. He blinked them back. Emma was dozing against his shoulder again. He couldn't afford to fall apart. Not yet, not here. But Frank Sullivan's words had hit something deep, something he had been trying to ignore all day. He hadn't set out to be a hero, hadn't wanted to expose corruption or start a national conversation or become a symbol for veterans' rights. He just wanted to see his mother. Everything else had happened because he refused to accept injustice, because he'd been raised by a woman who taught him that backing down from bullies only makes them stronger, because 30 years of military training had wired his brain to identify threats and neutralize them. He'd done what any good man would do, and somehow that had been enough to change things. Midnight came and went. Margaret's vital signs continued to improve. Heart rate steady at 72, blood pressure normal, oxygen saturation at 96%. Dr. Patel checked in at 1 a.m. She's stable enough that you could go get some rest, Mr. Harrison. We have your number. If anything changes, we'll call immediately. Cole shook his head. I'm staying. The doctor didn't argue, just nodded and left. Emma had moved to the small couch under the window. She was curled up under a hospital blanket. Titan had positioned himself on the floor between the couch and the door. Still working, still watching. Cole sat in the chair, holding his mother's hand and watching her breathe. At some point, he must have fallen asleep, because he woke to sunlight streaming through the window and Emma shaking his shoulder. Daddy, Daddy, wake up. Grandma's talking. Cole's eyes snapped open. He was instantly alert. SEAL training, 0 to fully operational in half a second. Margaret was awake. Her eyes were clear, focused. She was looking at Emma with something that looked like wonder. Good morning, sweet girl, Margaret said. Her voice was still weak, but stronger than yesterday. Much stronger, Grandma Emma said. You're better. I'm getting there, honey. Dr. Mitchell appeared in the doorway. She was smiling. Good morning, everyone. Mrs. Harrison, I have to say you're looking remarkably improved. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck, Margaret said, but a much smaller truck than yesterday. Dr. Mitchell checked the monitors, ran through a series of neurological tests, asked Margaret to squeeze her hand, Follow her finger with her eyes. Say her name and the date. Margaret passed everything. This is excellent, Dr. Mitchell said. We're going to start the immunotherapy this afternoon, but I'm very encouraged by your response to the transfusion. You've got good genetics, Mrs. Harrison. Margaret looked at Cole. I've got a good son. The first week was hell. Margaret's body rejected the first round of immunotherapy. Fever spiked to 104. Cole sat by her bed watching the monitor scream warnings while Emma asked questions he couldn't answer. Will Grandma die, Daddy? I don't know, baby. I don't know. The doctors tried different medications, adjusted dosages, ran tests that came back with numbers Cole didn't understand but knew were bad. On day 3, Margaret stopped eating. The nurses tried to coax her. Cole tried. Emma tried. Nothing worked. On day 5, her kidneys started to fail. They moved her to dialysis 3 times a week, machines filtering her blood because her body couldn't anymore. On day 7, Cole stood in the hallway with Dr. Mitchell while Emma stayed with Margaret. I need you to prepare yourself, Dr. Mitchell said gently. Sometimes the treatment is too much for a body this weakened. Sometimes fighting makes things worse. Cole's hands clenched into fists. What are you saying? I'm saying we may need to consider making her comfortable. Hospice care. Quality over quantity. No, Cole said. She's not giving up. I'm not giving up. Dr. Mitchell put a hand on his arm. I understand, but sometimes the kindest thing we can do is let go. Cole pulled away. She's still fighting. As long as she's fighting, I'm fighting with her. He went back to Margaret's room. Emma had climbed onto the bed. She was reading to her grandmother from a book about a girl and her dog. Margaret's eyes were closed, but Cole could tell she was listening. Titan lay on the floor, watching, waiting, the way he always did. Cole sat in the chair, took his mother's hand. It was so thin now, he could feel every bone, every vein. Mom, he said quietly, I know you're tired. I know this is hard, but I need you to keep fighting. Emma needs you. I need you. Just a little longer, please. Margaret's eyes opened. They were cloudy with medication and pain, but still her eyes, still sharp underneath it all. Not done yet, she whispered. Not yet. And then on day 8, something shifted. The fever broke. Margaret opened her eyes, asked for water, asked for Emma. The doctors couldn't explain it. Blood work showed the immunotherapy was finally taking hold. The tumors had stopped growing. Some were even shrinking. Dr. Mitchell stood at the foot of the bed with a tablet in her hands, looking at numbers that made her smile for the first time in a week. I don't know what to tell you, Mr. Harrison, she said. This is remarkable. Her body is responding, really responding. Cole felt something he hadn't let himself feel in 8 days. Hope, slowly, one day at a time. Margaret got stronger, first sitting up in bed, then walking to the bathroom with assistance, then walking the hospital corridors with a walker while Emma cheered her on. Cole stayed in Atlanta. He'd planned to return to Colorado after a few days, but Margaret's doctors wanted him close for additional blood transfusions as the treatment progressed. His rare blood type was keeping her alive. Ashley Monroe called twice, once to thank him, once to tell him that she'd been fully cleared and reinstated at her job with a promotion to supervisor. She was in counseling dealing with the trauma of Victor's blackmail. Her son Michael was safe, thriving. She'd started volunteering with an organization that helps single mothers in crisis. Tom Richardson called daily with updates. The FBI investigation had expanded. They'd found evidence linking Victor Kane to organized crime, money laundering, drug trafficking. The service dog discrimination was just the surface. The full scope of his criminal enterprise was still being uncovered. Victor himself was in federal custody awaiting trial. He'd pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyer was arguing that he'd been acting under orders from higher-ups in the airline and airport authority. No one believed him. The 23 veterans who'd been denied their rights had been contacted. A class action lawsuit was in progress. The airline had already offered settlements, significant settlements. Every veteran would be compensated. Every service dog would receive a formal apology. National legislation was being drafted. The Service Dog Protection Act, mandatory training for all airline and airport employees, federal oversight, penalties for violations. Cole had been invited to testify before Congress. He declined. Let someone else have the spotlight. He just wanted his mother healthy and his daughter safe and his life back to normal. News coverage continued for 2 weeks, then faded as other stories took over the cycle. Cole gave exactly one interview to a veterans advocacy magazine, said what needed to be said, then stopped returning calls from reporters. On day 21, Dr. Mitchell gave them the news they'd been hoping for. The tumors are in remission, she said. Complete remission. I'm discharging you, Mrs. Harrison. You'll need to continue outpatient treatment and we'll monitor closely. But you can go home. Margaret cried. Emma cried. Cole held them both and didn't cry but came close. They flew back to Colorado on a sunny afternoon in early January. The blizzards had passed. Clear skies stretched from Atlanta to Denver. Margaret sat in first class, courtesy of the airline's settlement offer. Emma sat beside her grandmother, talking nonstop about everything they were going to do when they got home. Titan sat at Cole's feet in the row behind them. Calm, professional, job well done. When they landed at Denver International Airport, Catherine Hayes was waiting at the gate. She hugged Margaret carefully, welcomed them home, told them that the airport had implemented new training protocols, that Victor's entire security team had been replaced, that this would never happen to another veteran. Frank Sullivan was there too, in his wheelchair, with 3 other veterans from the local VFW post. They'd brought a banner that read, "Welcome home, Harrison family." Marcus Webb, the Army Ranger who'd driven Cole from the Atlanta airport, was there. He'd flown to Denver on his own dime just to see them arrive safely. Officer David Thompson was there in dress uniform. He saluted Cole, shook his hand, told him the entire airport security force had watched the training videos about service dog rights and ADA compliance. That Cole's stand had changed policy not just in Denver, but in airports across the country. They drove to Margaret's house in Colorado Springs, the small 2-bedroom cottage where Cole had grown up, where his father had lived until cancer took him, where Margaret had stayed even after she got sick because it held too many memories to leave. The neighbors had decorated, American flags lined the walkway. A welcome home banner hung over the door. Mrs. Patterson from next door had stocked the refrigerator. Mr. Wilson from across the street had shoveled the snow from the driveway. That night, they had dinner together. Margaret, Cole, Emma, Titan under the table, accepting the occasional piece of chicken from Emma's sneaky hand. They talked about normal things. School, weather, Emma's upcoming birthday. Nothing about airports or criminals or national news coverage. Just family. Just home. Later, after Emma was asleep in her old room and Margaret was resting, Cole sat on the front porch with Titan beside him. The mountains were visible in the distance, snow-covered peaks against a darkening sky. His phone buzzed, a message from Tom Richardson. Cole, Victor Kane was sentenced today. 18 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. The judge called his actions a betrayal of public trust and a systematic violation of civil rights. Ashley Monroe testified. She was incredible, strong. The other employees he blackmailed testified too. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. It's over. He's done. Justice served. Cole read the message twice. 18 years, no parole. Justice served. He typed back, "Thank you, Tom, for everything." Then another message came through from Ashley Monroe. Michael started kindergarten today. He was so excited. He wore his backpack for an hour before we even left the house. I never thought I'd see this day. Never thought we'd be free of Victor's shadow. But here we are. And it's because of you. Because you were brave when I couldn't be. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you for everything, for giving me my life back. Cole typed a response. You gave yourself your life back. You stood up when it mattered. You protected your son. You did that, not me. He sent the message, then turned off his phone. Titan's head rested on his knee. The dog's eyes reflected the porch light. Faithful, constant. The partner who'd seen him through the worst and stayed beside him through everything after. The door opened behind him. Margaret stepped out wrapped in a heavy robe. She moved slowly but without assistance, getting stronger every day. She sat in the chair beside him. They didn't speak for a long time, just sat together watching the stars emerge one by one in the winter sky. Finally, Margaret broke the silence. Your father would be proud, she said, of the man you've become, of what you did. I just stood up for myself, Cole said. That's all any of us can do. Stand up when it matters. You did that, and look what happened. Cole thought about it, about Victor Kane in federal prison, about Ashley Monroe free and safe with her son, about 23 veterans getting justice, about laws being changed and policies being rewritten, all because he'd refused to accept no for an answer when it would have been easier to walk away. I'm proud of you too, Margaret said. Always have been, from the day you were born until right this moment. You're a good man, Cole Harrison, a good father, a good son. Don't ever forget that. Yes, ma'am, Cole said. They sat together in the cold, clean air. Mother and son, survivor and protector, two people who had fought death and won, at least for now, at least for today. Inside the house, Emma called out from her bedroom. Daddy, Grandma, I can't sleep. Cole smiled. Coming, baby. He stood, helped his mother to her feet. Titan stretched and followed them inside. They tucked Emma back into bed. Read her a story about a princess and a dragon and a dog who could speak to horses. Margaret did the voices the way she always had. Emma giggled at the funny parts, drifted off halfway through. Cole kissed his daughter's forehead, turned off the light, closed the door. In the living room, he checked the locks, set the alarm, made sure everything was secure. Old habits, seal habits, protect the perimeter, guard the people you love. Margaret was already in her bedroom. He could hear her moving around, getting ready for sleep. The simple sounds of normal life. Titan settled on his bed near the fireplace, circled 3 times, lay down with a heavy sigh. Off duty now, but never fully off duty, always listening, always ready. Cole's phone was still off. No messages, no calls, no reporters or lawyers or advocates wanting his time or attention. Just silence, just peace. He walked to the mantel where his father's photo stood. James Harrison in his Air Force uniform. Died of cancer 8 years ago. Never met Emma. Never saw what his son would become. I did okay, Pop Cole thought. Hope you'd agree. The photo didn't answer, but somehow Cole felt like it did anyway. He turned off the lights, checked on Emma one more time. She was sleeping soundly, her stuffed bear tucked under her arm, her breathing deep and peaceful. In her room, Margaret was already asleep, her breathing steady. No machines now, no beeping monitors, just an old woman resting in her own bed. Cole stood in the hallway between their rooms, his mother on one side, his daughter on the other, Titan keeping watch below. The 3 beings he loved most in the world, all safe under one roof. This was what mattered. Not the news coverage, not the lawsuits, not the legislation or the apologies or the settlements. This, family safe, home secure. Another day survived. He went to his own room, the small bedroom at the back of the house, the same room he'd slept in as a child. Nothing had changed. Same bed, same dresser, same window looking out at the mountains. He lay down fully clothed, too tired to change, too tired to care. Sleep came quickly, dreamless, deep. The kind of sleep that only comes after you've done everything you could and it was enough. 6 months later, Emma started having nightmares, dreams about the mean man at the airport, about her grandmother dying, about losing everything. Cole held her when she cried, talked her through the fears, got her into therapy with a counselor who specialized in childhood trauma. And one night as he was tucking her in, she looked up at him with those green eyes that were so much like Margaret's and asked the question he'd been dreading. Daddy, that man, the one who was mean to us, did you know him before? Yes, baby, from the Navy, a long time ago. Did he hurt you? No, but he hurt someone else and I stopped him. And he's been angry ever since. Emma processed this. Will he ever stop being angry? I don't know, honey. Some people hold on to anger their whole lives. It makes them sick inside, but that's their choice, not ours. Are you angry at him? Cole thought about it, really thought. No, he said finally. I'm not angry. I'm just glad we stopped him from hurting anyone else. Emma nodded. I'm glad too. She fell asleep holding his hand. Cole stayed until her breathing evened out. Then he went to check on Margaret. She was already asleep. Cancer-free for 6 months now. Stronger every week. Titan was waiting in the hallway. The dog stood when Cole approached. Ready to work. Ready to help. Cole knelt down, put both hands on the dog's head, looked into those amber eyes that had watched him through seizures and flashbacks in the darkest moments of recovery. Good boy, he said quietly. Best partner I ever had. Titan's tail wagged once. Slowly, deliberately, they went to the living room together. Cole sat on the couch, turned on the television, some late-night show he didn't really watch. His phone was on the coffee table, still turned off most of the time. He'd learned that life was better without the constant notifications, without the demands of a world that wanted pieces of him he couldn't afford to give. But tonight he turned it on. One new message from Tom Richardson. Cole, one of the veterans from the Denver incident wants to meet you. Marine named James Foster, lost both legs in Iraq, has a service dog named Liberty. Says he was one of the 23 Victor turned away. Says he missed his daughter's wedding because of it. His daughter and son-in-law are renewing their vows next month. They want you there, want you and Titan to stand with them. They say you're the reason their dad's finally free. Let me know if you're interested. Cole stared at the message. A Marine who'd sacrificed everything, missed his daughter's wedding because of Victor's cruelty and spite. And now the daughter wanted Cole at her second ceremony, wanted to honor him, include him. He thought about standing in front of strangers at a wedding, about being thanked and recognized, about stepping back into the spotlight he'd worked so hard to avoid. Then he thought about James Foster, about what it must have been like to be turned away from that flight, to miss walking his daughter down the aisle, to carry that grief and anger and loss, and to finally be free of it. Cole typed back, give him my number. Tell him Titan and I would be honored to attend. The response came immediately. They're going to be so happy. You're a good man, Cole. Cole turned the phone off again, looked at Titan sleeping on the rug, at the photos on the mantle, at the home he'd built from the wreckage of war and injury and loss. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who'd stood up when it mattered. And somehow, impossibly, incredibly, that had been enough. He stood, walked to the porch one last time before bed. Titan followed. The Colorado night was clear and cold and full of stars. The mountains stood dark against the sky. Somewhere out there, James Foster was probably getting the news right now, probably calling his daughter to tell her. Cole's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, a text from an unknown number. Mr. Harrison, this is James Foster. Tom just told me the news. I don't have words. My daughter Sarah cried when I told her. You gave us back something we thought we'd lost forever. The chance to do it right. The chance to celebrate without that shadow hanging over us. We'll send details soon. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, Semper Fi. Cole read the message, then looked at Titan. The dog looked back, those amber eyes steady, faithful. You up for another trip, boy? Titan's tail wagged once. Cole smiled, put the phone away, walked inside, where his mother was reading in her favorite chair, where Emma was sleeping soundly, where his family was whole, where the fight was over, and the healing had begun. This was what he'd fought for. This moment, this peace, and it was enough, more than enough. It was everything.